Welcome to another video on data to decisions. In today's video, we'll be building a column chart in Microsoft Excel where we can see the actual versus target, but also we can show the variance, which is actual minus target, whether it's positive or negative in different colors. For example, here we have all the six different departments. And for example, IT department, there is a negative variance of 5, which means the actual progress or actual value is less than the target by 5 points. Whereas if I'm looking at the HR department, I can see that the target for HR is 23 and then the actual is 30, which means they are 7 points positive or higher than the target. So you can get some really good insights very, very quickly if we are able to showcase the variance, which is a difference between the actual and the target or the goal. Such a chart can be easily built in Microsoft Excel. This is what we're going to be doing in this video from scratch. So let's get started. So we'll start with the raw data as always. So we have this raw data where we have the department and then the actual value and then the target value. So the first thing I want to do is to select everything, press Control T, create it into a table. And now I'm going to put some formulas. And so the first thing I want to do is something called a baseline. And all of this will become very clear in the next couple of minutes. So please hold on that as you follow along um, the formulas and a few columns that we are creating. This is all to set up our chart that we will be creating very quickly. Now, the baseline is nothing but when we are building this chart, whichever is the minimum between the actual and the target, that is going to be my baseline. And because in this scenario or such scenarios, your actual can be less than the target, also greater than the target. In one of the recent videos, we did a progress tracker, which measures the progress as a percentage of the target, and it can never be over 100% in that scenario. In this case, the actual value can exceed the target. So that is why we first create a baseline, which is a minimum between the two. And then I'm going to create the positive variance column. And the positive variance column, it's a very simple formula to say if the actual is greater than the target, then give me actual minus target, comma. If it is not, then just give me NA. NA, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and then one more close parenthesis to close the if function. And this gives me something like this. We've done similar formulas in previous videos on this channel. Basically, if the actual is greater than the target, you will see a number appear in this column. But if the actual is less than or equal to the target, you will see that it will say NA, not available, not applicable in this case. So negative variance is something similar. So we'll be creating a negative variance column, and the formula will look like if the actual is less than the target, then give me, because in this case the target is greater, right? So I'll say target minus actual, comma. If not, then NA, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and then another close parenthesis. So this will give us the opposite, right? So when, for example, marketing, the actual value is less than the target by 6. So it automatically puts in 6. So two things we're doing. One is we are separating the positive and the negative. The other thing we are doing is making it the absolute difference. So you notice that we don't have minus 6, we have plus 6. So those are the two main things to note. As soon as we are done with creating these columns, we are ready to create the chart. We're going to select all the columns and then go to insert. And I'm going to insert it as um, as a stacked, let's see, as a stacked column. So I'm going to choose the second option in the chart menu here, stacked column. And as soon as I create it, you will see stacked column chart appear. The first thing I need to do is to make sure that the actual and the target, so the red and the yellow series, I want to move them into a secondary axis. So I'm going to right click on the red, which is, again, the colors will be different on your Excel because of the theme that you have selected or I have selected here, gives me these colors. What you have may be different. So make sure that you select the actual series. Actual is the first column here, actual is here, Typically, you'll find it at the bottom of your stacked column chart. Now, right click, Format Data Series. Make sure you click on Secondary Axis. Then, now we need to also select the target series. So you can also, if the colors are not really visible, you can go to the series target and make sure you click on the secondary axis. So what we have done is we have moved the actual and the target to a secondary axis. Next step is right click, change chart type, and for the actual and the target, they are on the secondary axis. So I'm going to actually select them to be a clustered column and not a stack. As soon as I change one, the other one also changes because they're on the same axis, and let's press OK. And now you start seeing that it's coming together. So the red series in my case is the actual, the yellow is the target. If I want my target to come to the left of the actual, you can easily do that. Right click, select data. And in this case, the actual is above target. And so I'm going to switch this, press OK. So now you see that the target value is here. So let's do a little bit of a cleaning up of the colors to make sure that, I mean, these are very bright and bold colors. So I'm going to make the target a little bit of a pattern. So I'm going to go to fill, do a pattern fill, where it could be, for example, I could do one of these patterns. I don't want it to be so, I can even make it less prominent. So something like this. And this is the fill, the border. If you want the border, you can select the border and let's leave it like that. Okay. So we have now a target series here, which looks like that. And for the measure series, you can choose the color you want. So I'm going to go and say choose one of our blues. So that's going to be my actual. So target and actual are side by side. Now, the important thing we have to make sure is the variance, which is the whole focus of this type of chart and the video itself, is how do we get my positive and negative variances both to show up. So I'm going to now click on the negative variance here, which is a little bit darker blue or black here. And you can also always select the series from the right side panel here. So you can go here and then choose the series. So I can choose, for example, positive very easily this way. Once I've selected, what I want to do is change my gap width. This is extremely important for the appearance that we're going for. This says 150%, right? So let me just go back and select the actual series. That is also 150%. So the gap width is nothing but the gap between the columns. So if I change this, if I increase my gap width, my columns become narrower. If I reduce my gap width, then my columns become wider. So in this case, I know that my actual series has 150%. So what I'm going to do is to go to the positive variance series and make that half of that, 75%. Okay. Now, what has happened is you see that this negative variance series is now filling up that space. Same thing, the positive variance will also automatically fill up that space nicely above the target or above the measure, depending on whether it's positive or negative. So this is a negative series, the marketing, right? The negative variance is 6. So that let me just add the labels. I think it'll make explaining this a little bit easier. So I just right click and add labels. Or you can also add labels from here. So I can uncheck, add labels. So there are multiple ways to do it. For the target series, once I have the labels, I can do format labels, and I'm going to put it inside the base. So inside the base. So similarly, I'm going to click on the actual series and I'm going to add the labels, and I want the labels also to be inside the base. So I'll go here, choose inside the base. Okay, the main thing I wanted to do here was, now we see that marketing has 26 is the target value, 20 is the actual value. So the difference is 6. And this black area here is filling up that difference as 6 points. Now I can right click on that. Let's change the color for the negative series. And you could, again, you could choose any color that you would like. In this case, since it's a negative one, I'm going with a little bit of a red. And then if I select the positive variance series, I can do green. And I know that the color choices here will also depend on what is your metric, right? In some cases, the higher number is not necessarily a good thing, depending on the metric. So choose your colors wisely. Make sure that the audience understands that what those colors represent. In this case, I'm going to go with green for positive variance. And now I have the target, the measure, and I also have the negative and the positive variances clearly shown. I can right click and add a data label, and it shows as 6. And because it shows the 6 in there, one thing I'm going to do now is to click on the data label and add a background. Again, it's a negative variance, so let me add a darker red and change the font to white. So it looks like that. And then for the positive variances, I can right click and add a label there and then click on the data label, change this to a little bit darker green. There we go. So now the chart looks kind of where we want it to be. The focus is on the variance numbers. The variances are colored differently based on positive or negative. You can clearly see where they fill the gap between the target and the actuals. So everything is looking good. I think the only thing is I probably shouldn't have done the form border for the targets. I'm going to go back here because that's the only one with a border. So looks odd, so I'm going to remove the border. So now we can have something like this. Go back here to the fill and the background. I'm going to change that to be this and maybe the foreground or something like that. It has, there we go. Okay, so now we have target, the actual, the positive variances are shown in green, the negative variances are shown in red. Everything is exactly right. And if your data changes, the chart also will automatically change, no problem. A little bit of a cleaning up to finish this video would be click on the legend and you can move the legend to the top. And then the chart title would be highlighting the variances, actual versus target. That is the chart title. I can format the chart title a little bit. And then in this case, I'm not going to add an x-axis title. I mean, because it's department, it's very clear what it is. So I don't need to add it. And then the grid lines, I'm going to right click on format grid lines, solid line, make it less visible. So they go to the background and then click on the entire chart and I'm going to put a solid border around it with rounded corners. There we have it. So this is what we were trying to build from scratch and we have built it. Again, it's a little bit more work than some of the other charts that we have built. But if your focus is to show the variance while at the same time showing the target and the actual side by side, this could be a handy chart. We've done some other videos where we show the variances in different ways, in some much simpler ways as well. So if you're looking for that, please check out the other videos. We'll put the links to the other videos. We have a lot of different column chart variations that we have covered. If we have missed any, please let us know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon in another video.